Hello! Today we are on the ground at Boonville in the US in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, and in front of us we have the JustFlight Piper PA-28 Arrow 3. So the Arrow 3 was released by JustFlight for Flight Simulator 2020 a couple of years ago, and it's now been re-released for Flight Simulator 2024. So I thought we'd go and have a look at it. So I'm in the drone camera using an Xbox controller to pan around the airplane and show you it. So I'm going to have a look at this as if you've never seen the airplane before, because there are obviously lots of new players of Flight Simulator 2024 that have never seen this airplane. So it's worth saying you can pick this airplane up in a bundle at the moment from JustFlight. So you can get both the Arrow 3, the Turbo Arrow 3 and the Arrow 4 in a bundle for a hefty discount. So it's worth checking that out if you like flying GA planes, or if you have a particular focus on the Piper Arrows of one description or another. So there are quite a few versions of the Arrow around now for the simulators. It's worth saying that these JustFlight ones are very good. And I've talked to several real-world pilots, and they've said that the flight characteristics of these seem to be, pretty much on the button in terms of being, an accurate representation of what they are like to fly in the real world. So you can see the modelling of the airplane is very good. It's worth pointing out these are not study-level airplanes, but there's a lot here to have fun with, as you will see as I take you on a wander around the airplane. So yes, as I said, the 3D structures are very good, the textures are great. It's a little bit simplified over some of the airplanes that have come out recently, but that means the frame rates are going to be great. So I'm not going to complain about that at all. The spinners look great and the propellers obviously, and they don't animate the spinners spinning, which I wish more people would do. You'll see what I mean when we show an external view with the engine running. You'll see that there are chocks and tie-downs. You don't get to interact with them from the walk-around mode in 2024, but you do get to interact or change them via the tablet within the aircraft, which has a ton of functionality, and we'll have a look at that when we get to it. So you can see the basic airplanes look great. The texturing, if you get really close, you can see the pixels, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. I know lots of people love to have like 8K textures or whatever. I'm not one of those people. And you do get lots of liveries with the aeroplanes, and they do have lots of attention to detail in terms of bits of dirt and scratches on the windows and all the rest of it. So it does look great. When you look at the instrument panel from outside, if you get too close it starts to look pixelated. That's just the external view, don't worry. Once the camera comes into the cockpit, you get the proper version of the aeroplane that you're going to see while you're flying it. And as you can see, this version of the Arrow has a wonderful kind of late 70s, early 80s instrument panel, which is accurate to its time, and I love that in the sim. I love the opportunity to go and actually experience flight as people did back in the day. It makes a huge difference to me. So, glass cockpits have their place, and that is, that's progress and all the rest of it. But it's great to go back and see how, or what you had at your disposal in these older aeroplanes. Okay, so there's a tablet in the airplane, as we said. So if I just go and jump around, obviously I'm still in drone camera, so I can't interact with anything. So let's go back outside, press Shift and X. We're in the cockpit as per normal now. I've turned the weather off, by the way. It was blowing a gale and raining in Boonville earlier, so I thought, you want to see the airplane, you don't want to see me struggling against the conditions. So by default in the tablet you are seeing the aircraft app. So if we click on the home key, you can see it's got lots of different areas throughout the tablet. You've got an operational flight plan there, which implies sim brief. If you click on the time, it will bring you back. You've got a moving map. You've also got Navigraph charts available, so if you click in here you can obviously go and connect to Navigraph, which I've not done yet, and you can obviously see charts as you normally would. You've got the aircraft app, which we'll come back to in a moment. You've got a notes app, so you can either type in here or you can even use a pencil and scribble all over it. So if you're talking to ATC, that's kind of useful. You've got checklists built into the aircraft, so they're very good. They're very complete, so you can go through and you can simulate the real-world checklists while you're going through to make sure you don't forget things. I would say if you're just starting out with the aeroplane, they don't obviously indicate where things are, and I'll come back to that in a moment. When we actually come to start the airplane up, I'm going to use my own written procedure. So if we come back to the clock, we can see we've also got a top of descent calculator, which does what it says on the tin. If we click on the clock again, we've got some settings in the tablet. You can change the theme between light and dark. You can change the brightness level. You can set your OFP username login for SimBrief in here. So it's all pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, so in the aircraft tab, you get aircraft states to shortcut going to ready for takeoff or cold and dark, for example. You get some resource management, so it does simulate the use of resources like oil, or the battery will run down if you leave it on. It does remember where switches are around the cockpit, so if you finish a flight and leave things on all over the place, they will be on when you get back into that particular aeroplane. Okay, so you can switch the view of the co-pilot on and off. You can have an automatic fuel selector. So down in the cockpit on the wall, you've got the normal fuel selector. So obviously I'll switch it off for the moment. But you can have the tablet help you, so it will flip-flop between the wing tanks as you're flying. You can also switch between different avionics kits. So we got the basic GPS 100 in here, which is obviously of its era, and I think that's rather lovely. You can switch it out for Garmin 530 and 430s if you want, or just a 530 with a nav and com radio, and it will cycle back round in a circle. If you've got the GTN 750 glass screens, they will replace the instrument stack, as you would expect. I haven't got them installed, so it doesn't show up as an option. You've got the option there about state saving. As you can see, dark means selected. HSI enabled is there. If we go and select that, it will go away and we just get a direction instrument.
State saving enabled.
And you get voice control of things like that as well, which is quite cool. So you can switch the yokes on and off here. So you can do that as well in the normal way by clicking the base of the yokes. Chocks and tie downs are in here, obviously, so we can go and select them. Then if we look back outside, they'll have gone away. Okay. We can select the doors here, but the doors are interactive. You can click on the doors and you can click on all of the things that you would think should be interactive, and it tends to be interactive, including things like, you know, the window, the shades, the storm window, and it affects the sound nicely as well. So yeah, everything's interactive that should be. It's very good. Down here we've got a trim marker. So let's just zoom in on that. Oh, sorry, it's just here, look. It's on neutral, that's good. You've got an emergency marker as well down there for the gear. Okay, so let's go and work through getting the airplane ready for flight. So if you look online, you can find the documentation for the Arrow if you do a search for it from JustFlight. So just Google JustFlight Piper PA-28 and you'll find it very quickly. It's not bundled with the aeroplane, which I was surprised at. It's not in the aeroplane folder. But that may be because it's quite a sizable download. So if you go and look on the contents, it runs to nearly 100 pages. And it's actually quite a good read. It goes through everything in detail that's in the cockpit and how to use it. So yeah, although a good read for for a given person, I happen to enjoy looking at things like this. As I said, the checklist, it's got checklists in here as well, but it doesn't really go through a short list of what you need to do to get the airplane up and running quickly. So that's what I've written up. So if you go to Ko-fi.com, and I'll put a link for this in the video notes, I've written up my usual procedure of just the functional startup procedure for the airplane. And if you've never seen one of these, I'm sure lots of you have by now. I tend to detail what view to use, where to look, and what to flick, what to press, what to turn within the cockpit, and what to check. And it keeps to a kind of a basic procedure, and then obviously you can embellish that with more and more as you get closer to replicating the real world procedures with all the checks a real pilot might do. Okay, let's go through then. I'll work through my own checklist and we'll get the airplane up and running, take it for a fly. So, first thing we're going to do is go and remove the chocks and the tie downs, which we've already done. We're going to select the fuel tank we want for the moment, so we'll go for the left tank on the fuel selector. We'll go and turn the battery and the alternator on so you can see some of the needles flinging across there as the power was switched on. So we will be depleting power now we've got the battery on. So we're going to go and advance the propeller lever to max. We're going to crack the throttle open. We're going to put the mixture to lean for the moment, put the fuel pump to on, and then we're going to exercise that mixture lever. And you can see the fuel flow moving there, so you can see that working. So then we'll go back to 50% on the mixture. We'll go and put the rotating beacon light on. I've noticed the beacon light doesn't actually come on, so they've kind of missed that somewhere along the way. We're going to go and rotate the start key. So turn it to start, and engine comes to life. Aiming for 1000 RPM, which we're just about hitting, which is fine. So mixture then goes to rich, and fuel pump goes to off. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on the pressures and temperatures coming up across the aeroplane. You can see fuel tanks are full. Fuel pressure is not showing much yet, but then if we take this up to 2000 RPM and do the run-up test, you'll see those temperatures come up pretty rapidly. So we're just going to gently increase the power. Until we get to 2000 RPM. Okay, and then we're going to manipulate the magneto. So left magneto should drop by 100 or so, no more than 150. Right magneto, we shouldn't see a variance of more than 50. And then back to both, and it climbs back up to 2000. Okay, and when we can exercise the RPM lever itself and bring it back to max again, and that's all looking great, and we can pull the power back. So as I said, the real world pilots I've spoken to that have flown arrows said this thing isn't far away from the real thing, certainly in terms of how heavy it is as well on the nose in flight. So let's bring this back down. I'm probably being a little bit too careful with this. Okay, so over here we've got the GPS, so let's go and switch some of these radios on. You notice some of these switches have come over to on all on their own. That's a bit of a surprise. So let's go and turn the volumes, because you can manipulate each radio and turn it on or off. It's lovely that some of the labels have worn away inside the cockpit. I'd love that kind of attention to detail in the airplanes. So let's go and turn all the volumes on, put the transponder on standby, ADF on, go and hit on the GPS. It will go through a self-test and then start capturing satellites, and we'll say enter. We're okay with that, and off it goes to go and capture things. We'll go and put the distance measuring equipment on, because we will have a play with the radios. We'll make sure we're on nav mode on the switch here, which obviously switches between using the GPS or the nav for the HSI. Oh, we want the other instrument, don't we? So we'll go over here. Now, where was the setting for it? HSI enabled. We'd rather have an HSI, a bit easier to use than just a direction indicator. So, where are we? We're almost ready to go. So we were going to wait for the satellite. I think it's up to speed. It's got readings across all the satellites. So if you press nav and then nav again, it will give your current position readout and your altitude above ground level. So about 380 feet here at Boonville. So let's go and pre-select 112.3. Whoops, 112.30, which is the, I think it's the, no, is it Endocino, the VOR that's near here? So you can see we've got ourselves at Boonville. There's the VOR. It's called Mendocino, and then Ukiah. So I thought we might fly across just to have a look at the airplane in flight. Okay. So I'm just going to go back down through my list. So we've looked at the radios, they're all configured. We're not talking to ATC today, so we don't really have to worry about transponder. And we don't have a taxi light, but we do have a landing light, so we can go and do that. Okay, so let's go and roll out to the runway. So parking brake off. And we can see we're gently rolling forwards. It doesn't have the best turning circle in the world. And I wouldn't stand there if I was you, sir. I'm going to give you a haircut if you're not careful. Okay, let's try out the head tracking. Yep, that's absolutely fine. So it's rolling out to the runway, then we'll do our final checks before we get going. Okay, mixture is rich, max RPM. We'll go and put the flaps to their first detent, which is great. Okay, you'll remember I said about the spinner. I love what they've done with this, so you don't get that rotating shape. Sounds great, doesn't it? Okay. Full throttle. Let's put the pitot heat on as well while we think of it. Hold the centre line. Coming up to 60 knots. Rotate. Start a gentle right turn on purpose because there's a hill. I'd show you where. There. I mean, we can climb over it, but I'd rather have a fast climb out than a steep, slow climb out and be at risk of losing the aeroplane. Okay, so back inside the aeroplane. We can get rid of the tablet if we want. There's a switch here called ICOM. Click spot for it is absolutely minuscule though. There we go. Okay, let's come back off the power. And back off the RPM. Turn across the valley. I'm just going to center my view up. So it trims very nicely. I'm just using the elevator trim now to straighten us up, keeping an eye on the vertical speed indicator. So remember, it's about, was it 380 feet? So we want to be about 1380, 1400 for our fly around the airfield. So you can see there's Boonville down there. I'll leave the landing light on, coming straight back in. Flies wonderfully. Very, very stable. I have found a small bug with it where I switched on the GNS 530 to try it out, and it came up with dark screens. It wouldn't come on. I think the fix is you switch to the 530, go back to the main menu in the sim, come back in, and it should work. But obviously tiny little bugs like that, they're so difficult to catch in development, and I imagine they'll fix it pretty quickly. I'm sure lots of people will shout at them. Okay, so let's get the gear back down. As we roll back in for an approach, for a touch and go. So we'll complete the touch and go, and then we'll set the course on Nav 1. and try following the radios. So we're on max RPM now on the propeller. Bring the power back into combat full flaps, which will be dragging us enormously. We're a little bit low. Just hold it level for a moment on the vertical speed indicator. Very stable. Okay, full throttle. And rotate. And gear up. So let's get this lined up to point at the station, so about 55 degrees by the look of it. Will take us out to the Mendocino VOR. So I have to climb over this hill. I'm racing the engine at the moment now. I'm not really happy about doing that. Let's pull the propeller RPM back down. We're not going to make it over that hill with a straight climb, so we're going to turn across the hill. You notice the flashing light here is to do with us being at the altitude we're at with the gear up. So flicking that will make the warning go away. Let's turn back in then towards the VOR. Now we are clear of the hills. And we'll head over towards Ukiah. So we're off obviously to the side. We got distance measuring equipment is showing we're only 3.5 miles away from the VOR. Look outside, you'll see Boonville behind us over there. Climbing, climbing, climbing to get across these hills. So Ukiah's just the other side of the next ridge. And here we go, look, we're almost on top of 2.9 miles away now. We've just crossed over the beam again. I wonder if it's in the scenery. I've never actually looked. Two and a half miles away. It must be on top of this hill, I guess. Probably in the blank patch in the trees in the real world. This is one of my silly hobbies in Flight Simulator, is looking for VORs. Is it going to be on top of that tree? Does that look like about 1.5 miles away? I think it might be. Or is it this one? supposed to be focusing on the aeroplane, aren't I? Taking you on a damn fool escapade to look for a VOR. Yeah, there it is. You can see it in this. It hasn't got a 3D structure, but you can see it in the textures. So there's the VOR station. Very cool. Okay, so leaving here, we want to be flying 22 degrees. So I have noticed that the HSI will, or gyro direct, or the directional gyro is the correct term for it, but the HSI will drift from the magnetic compass. So if we press Control, I've set Control-Alt-Z to reset it for me, and yeah, it hasn't drifted at the moment. But if you do lots of hard turns, you will get it to drift. So we're 1 mile away now. So how far have we got on the chart to go? About 5.5 miles away. So it's just over this ridge and you'll see the airport. And we'll drop in. We could, if we look at the hills, yeah, we could just fall in through this valley and fall in straight onto the runway 33. We've got no ATC, so there's nothing to stop us doing that. So let's do that. So pull the power back and descend. It's a great little aeroplane, isn't it? I used to love flying these in 2020, so having them now available in 2024 as native aircraft is great. I noticed the liveries don't change, obviously, because some of them, some custom liveries, the tail number has a specific font. So painting that back out to let the simulator overpaint it. So you can see I've got a custom call sign or tail number, so it doesn't overpaint, which is a bit of a shame, but not the end of the world. So there's the 30% marker, I think it is, on the power. It means just I haven't got the gear down, it's just reminding me. So let's put the gear down. And there's Ukiah. So we'll roll in. I'll put the flaps down now, and hopefully we'll get in without too much trouble. So over the coming days, I will cover all of these new aeroplanes that have arrived from JustFlight. So there's obviously this is the Arrow 3, there's the Turbo Arrow 3, the Arrow 4, and the Warrior. The Warrior's a little bit different than the Arrows, but they're all great. They're great fun. And we're down. So obviously this is not a high fidelity airport, as you might call. It's just a default scenery done by AI in Flight Simulator, but it's quite a nice little airfield. So we're going to turn off the runway here. I just realised we didn't put our anti-collision lights on, did we? We should have had those on. There's always something. Well, there's an A10. I wonder what he's doing here. Seems to have sunk into the tarmac, obviously because he's too heavy for the airfield. I've actually seen that happen. I went to Fairford Air Show one year, and a tornado sunk through the hard standing for the parking area. don't need any fuel. I'll just pull in alongside. Is that a Cessna 418, is it? Or is it a Beechcraft? I can never remember. I think is it a Beech? Model 18. I can never remember the numbers of all of them. Okay, so let's go and pull the mixture back to lean, which will use up all the bits of fuel left. And a sudden stop in the prop there. Oh my word! Lights off, pitot heat off, alternator off, batteries off. Magneto's off. We never used the autopilot, but we didn't need to. Okay, and obviously you can, because this airplane will remember it, you can go around all of the instruments and you can turn them back off again. So the power tends to be on the volumes for them. So I'm just going around and doing that, turn the transponder off. I should have done that before the power, really. But yeah, it's just worth remembering that. And you've got a few sliders here, like the DME. Works a little bit differently than the others. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. So that was the JustFlight, let me get this right, JustFlight Piper P-28 Arrow 3 in Flight Simulator 2024. These airplanes are very good fun to fly. So, as I said, there is a bundle going on the JustFlight website to get all of the arrows in one go, so it's definitely worth doing it if you like this sort of airplane. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care.